Juan Leija is in the house, the older brother to the primal soldier, Eric
Yes.
Leija. And I want to talk a bit about your background, what got you here. But you've been here at Onnit since the very beginning.
Yes, sir.
The beginning of the gym workouts, back in Aubrey's garage, training dudes.
Yeah.
And to see it come like all the way to where it is now must be an incredible experience. But let's talk about growing up with young Eric and how you guys trained, all the things that got you into this. What led you here?
So what led me here as far as my fitness road was, growing up, I was, a little husky kid, So was my brother. We were both kind of like genetically, we're like short and thick, growing up. And at a young age, my dad he was a dick, but he's fucking cool. Like he did things that like he would take us to the track. Actually, right down the street here at Onnit. I actually grew up right behind Onnit, less than a mile from here.
Oh, wow.
Like a quarter mile, actually. So it's crazy how it just comes full circle that I'm here now. But he used to take me to the track, and like my dad was always in really good shape. He was kind of like I would say like a hybrid between me and my brother. Just big but lean, and my brother's more the leaner one out of me and him. I'm more the thicker one. So he was kind of like in the middle between us. So he would take us out to the track, and like he would make me and my sister run. He would like do his like 3 mile, runs. And he would just be like, you guys got to run a mile, Obviously, he was saying it in Spanish, so my dad's a Mexican, he would like, pónganse a correr, like run. So we'd be running. And, from an early start, I got that kind of like mindset of like fitness, of like being in shape. And, as much as I did like just kind of like sit on the couch when I was young, my dad would make us work out. And to this day, I'm super thankful. And then as I got older, my uncle kind of took me under his wing and kind of like did more like the bodybuilding style training at an early age when I was 12. And then when I hit puberty and training, it kind of just like exploded. So then when my brother got older, I kind of had that responsibility. Like I felt like, oh, well, my uncle did this for me and I have like this knowledge. So I'm gonna help my brother out. So yeah, I would take my brother to the gym pretty regularly. Like he was like, my fucking co-pilot in the car all the time. And sometimes, when you're, like a teenager, you not necessarily always want to hang out with your little brother, because you're trying to look for girls and you're trying to kind of do your own thing. So, but my brother was always co-pilot, so I was like, hey, he was there, my little brother. So that was kind of a pain sometimes in the ass because we would like drop him off at Gold's Gym and then we would do our workout together. But, he was young. So he was kind of like, he would stay in the gym longer than I would. So, and I was out chasing girls. So it's like, I was like, all right, you stay in the gym. I'm going to, I'll come pick you up. So he kind of had that responsibility. So growing up with him was, awesome. He's kind of like, it was a huge responsibility because like, both my parents were doing business in Mexico. So they were like traveling back and forth. So my brother lived with me and kind of like trained with me and went with all that as far as that responsibility. So he was kind of like my little brother, son, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Took a huge responsibility in his like development, but I don't take full responsibility in his development. He kind of found his craft and like, from an early age, I would give him training tips, but he kind of like, did his own research. He would read things. He would like look up stuff and like
he was really book smart.
Yeah,
too, right?
he was really book smart. He was like really dive into like fitness. Like he's kind of like he gets addicted to stuff and he dives in full out. Obviously he loves kettlebells now and he goes all out on kettlebells. Like he fucking kills it.
He learned how to make DMT. Went all out on DMT for a year.
Yeah, that's another story. But yeah, he was like, at an early age. I mean, we would dive into that conversation. It was like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. He was living with me, and then I show up one time to the house, and the house smells like fucking a meth lab, and I'm like, the fuck are you doing, dude? He's like, oh, I'm making this stuff, that I researched online that I saw. Joe Rogan like mentioned that he was diving into and like he's doing. And so I decided I'd make it because I like Joe Rogan and he like was making DMT. And then he like was, back in the day, he was ordering bark from Brazil, making it. And then, at the time, like we didn't know shit about it really. So it was, I wouldn't say it was like the safe way to kind of go about doing DMT. It was more like a experimental phase. I was like, yeah, smoke this. It's called DMT. I fucking smoked it. I would blast off and I was like, the fuck is this? Like, I'd be like, man, what is this?
There are no words.
Like, I don't know. I was like, I don't even know what I can get myself into. It was like, it was just a crazy time. So, but it was a lot of learning experience from making DMT to working out, just like, different things that kind of like developed us into, being here now. So yeah, growing up with my brother, I love the guy, I still I'll always watch out for him. I always got his back, I know he always has my back. So yeah, definitely growing up with him as, had his challenges like any brother, fucking,
yeah, you butt heads, especially when you're a couple alpha males, for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. Stealing all your clothes. Like, damn, those are some dope shoes. Oh, those are my dope shoes. Yeah. But yeah, no, I love the guy, and it's cool that, like he's my brother. He's not that big, but fucker strong,
Yeah, he's strong as shit.
Yeah. And I think
he's got great cardio too.
Yeah. I think he attributes that to, all his kettlebell training. And it's like, swinging heavy bells is not easy, so I think that builds that strength. And, I kind of learned one day when we were crashing on my aunt's couch, both me and him, times were kind of tough then. We're sharing couch and we got into some beef early in the morning over something stupid. I think it was over like leaving clothes in the dryer or some shit like that. And he came at me. I went at him. We scrapped. And I was like, oh, damn. He got me. It was one of those like, oh, little brother finally got me. I was like, well, my excuse was like, it was like 6 a.m. I was half asleep. I wasn't fully ready. So it was
my controller's broken. It doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I love the guy, man. But yeah, man, that was kind of like the start of like fitness was through my uncle, my dad,
So you had like a base layer of cardio and conditioning from what your dad instilled in you, and then your uncle got you into bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, if you're in your late 20s to 50s, were introduced to bodybuilding as a big thing in the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
Right? And obviously we're influenced heavily by the muscle mags, muscle and fitness, all that good stuff. Arnold and Franco Colombo and all those guys like really trying to mimic that model. And then as we evolved from that to more fitness, and instead of training body parts, training movement practices, hip hinges, squat, lunge, twist, that kind of stuff, that's where we really see like peak performance come from. But one thing that's always stuck out to me is, and this isn't to knock anyone that's here, but you have some very prominent athletes like Tim Kennedy who seek you out to train with you every time they're here. Anytime they're in town, they're training with you. And that says a lot about your training style and how applicable it is to real world shit, like being a special forces operator or fighting in the UFC. So talk a bit about that transition from, traditional bodybuilding, training body parts and having a split to what you're into now, which is really fucking incredible to see.
So the way that started, like I said, bodybuilding was the introduction into fitness. And then, I wrestled in high school. And then after that, I thought I wanted to be an MMA fighter, like yourself. I was like, oh, I'm going to do MMA. And then I was like, fuck, these bodybuilding workouts. I went to House and Gracie Jiu-Jitsu here in Austin. I went in there, I got my ass rolled. I was like, man, these bodybuilding workouts don't do shit. So, I started kind of like investigating a little bit on my end. Like, man, like my heart rate was peaked. I know I wrestled, but like I was just like put in like some positions where I was like uncomfortable in jiu-jitsu, like getting thrown on my back. I was like, fuck, how do I do that? And it just like, that kind of triggered something. Like I was like, oh, my training needs to like change and I need to do something else. And at the time, my buddy Roger Huerta, he was in Minnesota, he was wrestling. He just randomly hits me up and he's like, hey man, I just got in a fight. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I fought in some barn. And I think he was in Iowa or Ohio. He's like, yeah, man, I went to like go watch a buddy fight that wrestled. I went in there and they're like, this is back in the old days. He was like, and they needed someone to go up there and fight. So I went in there and I fought and I won. I was like, cool, man. He's like, yeah, man, I love it. I think I'm a cage fighter now. And I was like, so then that kind of like, I was like, it's super cool because I grew up watching UFC and everything. I always been a huge fan. And I think I was most of a fan more than anything, but I was always intrigued with the training and everything. And he kind of introduced kettlebells, TRX trainer, sprint work, things like that I wasn't used to. And, that was at age 18, 19 when he was fighting MMA. And then he transitioned into fighting the UFC at an early age. And he kind of had like, I would say like he was introduced to like new training methods that a lot of the public at the time wasn't familiar with. And he introduced me to that stuff. Like when I first got a kettlebell, what was it? I was like 19, 20. I didn't know what the fuck to do with it. I was doing swings where I was squatting and like, just like I didn't know what
raising it up to the ceiling,
just lifting it up, so, I was introduced to it and then, I had to quickly learn because, obviously the kettlebell, the the weight will take you somewhere if you don't know how to control it, you know? So I learned from that, you know, kind of that transition went from bodybuilding to like, oh, okay, I need to start training like, you know, more applicable stuff that's going to relate to whether it be at the time was fighting, you know, so that can like, if I'm going to get my heart rate up, I can still control myself. And that kind of transitioned that. And as I grew older, I was like, oh man, like I love the fighting. It's fucking awesome. But I love the training. I love like helping someone get from point A to point B. So then I just started doing my research on like, you know, different training methods. You know, you got Joe DeFranco, who was, you know, an influence on me too. He's, you know, awesome coach, you know. Jim Jones is who I mostly resonated the most just because it had like a lot of that high volume, high intensity training, you know, and around that time they had the 300 movie come out and I was like, man, these guys are jacked. They're swole. Like what are they doing for the training? I looked up their training and it was like kind of CrossFit-ish, you know, style. And it's just like, man, the volume that these guys are doing is nuts. So, you know, I got introduced to that. So I started kind of like playing with that. But at the same time, it was not like, I wasn't like dived into just like one specific style of training. I kind of did like a hybrid of like, you know, bodybuilding moves, which I think, like, you know, at the time was like more strength training, like body, like squats, deadlifts, things like that. I was doing high volume stuff with like sprint work, which is now like, you know, like HIIT training and then mixing in the kettlebell. So I was kind of just like brainstorming and like kind of finding my own way. But at that time, I kind of learned, like I resonated a lot with the Jim Jones community just because of, you know, Mark Twite's, you know, high volume work, Rob McDonald and Jake Hutch. Now, all those guys were kind of just like at the front of like that type of training. And at the time I didn't know who I would relate to. I was like, oh, I don't know what the fuck my training is. It's all over the place, but I resonate with these guys. And I kind of started like following kind of their blueprints. And then from there, I noticed that like that type of training pushes people to like a mental edge where you're just like, you know, it just, you see people break, man. It's like, and that's like, I always wanted to train for that because I never wanted a break. And it's like, when I knew that, I knew I could help fighters with that because like fighters can't break in a fight, you know? So I was like, I got to push them to that edge where they could stay on that edge, on that line and still keep battling and fighting. And I think in my part, that's the part where I applied the training to it. Cause, you know, training is one aspect, you know, their main training is fighting. You know, my goal was to like kind of push them to that edge and get them to that next level, but not take away from their fighting. And me, through learning all that stuff, was just like mind blowing to me. And it's like, I applied all those skills that I learned to like people like Roger Huerta, Tim Kennedy, you know, different fighters and things like that. And like my attitude, you know, like sometimes I think people think I'm a little bit too blunt, but my training style is like, I guess, you know, I'm not that old, but it's just like more old school. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to be like, come on, man, you got this. Hey, you know, I'm going to be like, come on, motherfucker, you got to get this shit done, dude. Like I ain't got all day, you know, it's more my style of coaching. And like some people don't relate to it. Some people do. Guys like Tim Kennedy, you know, they're going to be like, they want to hear the truth, you know? And, you know, whether I'm training them or I'm working out with them, I expect the same thing in return from my training partners where, you know, it's just a workout, but, you know, if you can't knock out a workout in the gym in a controlled environment, then the world's going to be a fucking really tough place, you know? So I think that mentality kind of helped with guys like that, you know, want to get pushed to the edge and kind of get really challenged, you know, in a training environment. Cause I mean, these guys are doing things that, oh man, like you can only like see in movies, like what they're doing. So, you know, to provide an experience in the gym that's controlled and like pushes them to that level, it's what I love, you know, I love that stuff, you know, and
yeah, people love it too. I mean, you see that in your classes, they're maxed out. You know what I'm saying? Like anytime I come here, if it's the wrong time and I'm trying to find parking, I'm fucked. I'm parking on the street because every parking space in the lot is filled up for your classes.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's so much I want to jump in on. Yeah. First of all, Roger Huerta really, as MMA changed, was the face of the sport for a long time. He was the first MMA fighter ever to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Yes. Like he was in his heyday giant. Yes. Like he was a fucking giant on the scene of MMA and really talented guy. Also, like kind of the new guard, you know, like where you started to see guys like John Jones spring up and people like that, where it was like, you got to be good everywhere. Yeah. And you can't just be good at the sport like Jeremy Horn. You got to be fit too, like GSP. Yeah. And he represented that. So that's really cool that, you know, when you look into like the origin story of Juan, you have these prominent people at different places that influence. So you're into a ton of stuff now. You've got a women's program you've developed, and you've got this unconventional barbell training. And I want to break down both of those really, because I think it's fascinating to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody knows what a fucking barbell is.
Yes.
But you've developed a whole cert now at Onnit where you get to experience barbell in a way that you've never really experienced it before. But let's dive into the women's program first and then get into barbell.
Okay. So as far as the women's program goes, I've been training women. I've been in this industry for 13 years. I think the last 6 years have been more like my growth. Before I was a trainer, and I consider myself a coach because I'm not just like training people in the gym. I'm kind of like have relationships outside of the gym, whether it be, different advice on stuff like that, kind of help people to get to the next level in fitness. So, I consider myself a coach, but I've always coached a lot of women from day one to now. My clientele has been women primarily. And out of all those experiences, it's like, I've trained so many women, and like, I know what works as far as training goes, what works for them, and like, how it gets them like to that next level. So I was like, I got to put this together, and I got to have a program. So the last, 3 years I've been able to work on that women's program, put it together. And then I've had women sign up for it. The results have been great. Point A to point B, they get there. The goal with the women's programs, it's obviously get them aesthetically, there, but at the same time, get them like in my other training with Tim Kennedy and the fighters and people in the gym, is to get them mentally strong. So that was my goal with that too, is like, look, we're not going to be doing bicep curls and like, looking in the mirror. Cause as we don't have mirrors here at Onnit. There's one in the classroom, but it's like stuff all over that you can't really see your reflection that good. So it's not going to be like, we're not going to be like doing that type of training. Like, we're going to train hard. I'm going to push you ladies like I push the guys. So, I did that as a formulation of my early career of like bodybuilding style training with like high intensity training with, sports performance type training for women. And I developed that and I put it out there, and, it's been a success so far. And we're going to have the next one in September, the next round of it.
How long does a program run typically?
It's 8 weeks. It's an 8-week program, and it's like, it's for all fitness levels. You can be advanced or you can be beginner, because you make the workout as hard as you can. We have EMOMs, you have your weights, we test your weights and stuff like that. Like we have 4 tests that we test, and then we kind of retest them at the end of the program. So the workout is like, you make your own challenge, but at the same time, I already know I'm not going to let you just like sandbag it. Yeah. So it's been great to do that, but at the same time, I needed the pieces to help me out with that. I'm doing different programs, different things. I had to have like women to help me out, and I have like Natalie, which is one of our coaches here, and Krista, that helped me out with the program. And they've been doing a great job taking lead, because I love the programming aspect and I love helping people, but I also like developing other programs. So I like having my attention on that. But I think having women also contribute to that, it's a huge benefit. And now I built this program out, but obviously with different populations, you got to adjust the program. It's not always going to work for everyone. And with their feedback, it's been great that we made adjustments from like what was just in my mind and what I put on paper and all that to, I'm not I don't know if the right word would be like a closed book. I'm always open. I want to like hear other people's opinion, because I think I know something.
You're still a student as well. You're always learning. That's something that fascinates me about you and John Wolf, is that you're consistently trying to learn more.
Yes. And it's like, these ladies have a view that I don't. I'm not a woman. So I've trained many women, and like, it's just like, but I still don't have that insight. And having their feedback into this program has been great, because I think we are developing something that's going to make some really strong women, like not just strong, conditioned and looking good, but mentally be warriors, just like crushing it. And I think that's what motivates me in fitness, is like, I love my job. I love coaching. I love getting people from point A to B to C to D to keep going. I've had people training with me for years and years, and like, man, some of these people can coach. They can open up their own gym and they still come to me and to like train. I'm just like, man, this is crazy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
You talking about, like when you're a man leading a women's program, how you need that female influence. There was a book that changed my life in college called She Comes First. And it's on how to fuck better. It's all sex, like how to munch box. Sorry if there's ladies listening. I'm using derogatory terminology here. But yeah, how to eat pussy, like all these things. And it's a dude who writes it, but he brings in lesbians because like they know the female body better than anybody. They own one and they work on females.
Yeah.
So I think that it reminded me of that book, She Comes First. And it's a must read if you've never heard of it before. There's a half a papaya cut in half on the cover of it. So that's how you recognize the book.
Yeah.
But that was a game changer.
Yeah.
That was a game changer for me in college. I think it's so important to have that balance too and that again just goes back into that student mentality, like always learning, being receptive, being an open book, where it's not like, I've been doing this. I mean, you've been doing this way longer than Natalie and Krista, right?
Yeah.
But there's still something you can learn from them.
Yeah.
Like the best guys on the mat in jiu-jitsu, black belts that have been doing it for 20 years, they can learn from a white belt if they're paying attention and they take their ego out of it. They're going to learn all sorts of shit, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty important. Well, let's talk barbell here because we got all sorts of cool shit to go over when it comes to this.
Yeah. So the barbell circuit, is something that, when John Wolf came into the, to the fitness scene not the fitness scene, but to Onnit, he was more heavy on the unconventional side. And I was heavier on the barbell side, but I used barbell more for like strength training, aesthetics. I wasn't doing like powerlifting or things like that. But barbell was a huge tool that I used for all my training. So, we kind of like mix, kind of like ideas and stuff like that in the way I was training. Cause I was still using the barbell in a high volume, more unconventional way. So, we had to piece something together and he gave me all the respect, because like John always tells people that when we first met, we were going to get in a fight. I was like, no, we weren't, John. We weren't going to get in a fight. We just, we had a little little disagreement on something, but it was just miscommunication.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, oh, I'll never fight the guy. He's one of my best friends. And it was like, it was just a miscommunication, but John's one of the, a great teacher, a great mentor, and he helped me kind of like develop this cert. And it was just not just my cert, it's the Onnit cert that both me, him, and Shane kind of like put together. And not just us, it was like people that train in the gym helped us with all this. Because barbell has been around forever. I mean, it has been like for a long time. It's one of the, it's not as old as the mace or the clubs, but it's a tool that's been around for a long time. I'm not the strongest. I'm not the most conditioned. I use the barbell for what applies to me. And I use it for my clients and how it helps them out. So, we developed this course where we're using landmines. We're using offset barbell. We're doing barbell complexes, all that stuff that's a little bit different, but, still the same. And, applying that to fitness, like on a barbell, like an offset barbell looks kind of weird. And, like I don't really go to corporate gyms as much to work out, but, I'm doing like an offset barbell lift where like there's one plate on one side and there's no weight on the other side. And I'm doing this lift. And if you haven't tried this, obviously train up for it and then kind of work your way up to like
start light.
Yeah, start light. But it looks weird, and when I'm at a corporate gym kind of practicing these moves, people are looking at me like, the guy forgot to blow the other side of the weight. And I'm like, oh,
hey dude, there's no weight on the other side. What are you doing?
Yeah. And I have like a 45 on one side. Like, so yeah, it looks weird, but it's like, when have you lifted something that just perfectly, in
the real world,
distributed, right? The weight's just distributed perfectly. I never have. I lifted couches, TVs, things like you got to like find your way, your angles on how to
finagle every little inch of it.
You got to figure it out. And I think that, doing like unconventional barbell training is where we kind of like, not specialize, but we kind of like try to like reintroduce it to the public, like kind of like, look, these lifts has been around for a long time, and now we're just trying to make it available for people through a barbell cert that we put together that, a lot of time has gone into and, challenges people in different ways. We still go over your basics, your hinge pattern, your squat patterns, your push patterns, things like that. But then we apply them, like with different different setups, whether it be, like I said, offset barbell or the landmine, which challenges you. Like,
explain the landmine. Is that the one that goes on the bottom of a rack and you stick like one end of the barbell into it?
Yes.
And then so you're doing like presses and it's working the core and different things.
Yes. So you can do, So I love the landmine. We explore it with like different configurations. We have a cup that you use that you put against the wall, so you can travel with that anywhere. If you find a barbell, you just push the barbell into it. And the thing that's different with that setup is that you have to provide tension driving the barbell into the cup.
When it's not being held in.
Yeah, it's not being held in. So it's like the tension that you're providing is just lighting everything up, and it's just challenging you so much. But then you go into like just a normal landmine setup. It's like, you're doing all these moves that are taking, all that spine compression, you're taking all that off. So you're doing a little bit safer style training, but it's also like gives people access to doing squats with a barbell, whether you're doing RDLs, deadlifts, presses, things like that. And, not just because it looks weird or cool, but it actually has, this application. You got guys like, Ben Bruno that crush it with the landmine. He was the guy that kind of brought it out, and it's just like he's just done some awesome work with it. So I've looked a lot of his stuff up, and things like that, and it just like sparks ideas and with what we're doing. So like I said, this is not stuff that we made up. It's not stuff that we created. It's been around for a long time, and it's just our interpretation of the barbell. And it's like we go over the landmine, the complexes, the fundamentals of it. And then we also kind of like tie it all together into our system, which is like, you can train hard all the time, but the thing that people always trip out, whether I'm training women, Tim Kennedy, the badasses of, the gym, it's like we do open chain mobility and decompression, and we tie that all up in the cert. And a lot of things that people always ask me, what's open chain mobility? What's decompression? It's like, that's what gets you warmed up and gets you cooled down, but we do a different approach to it, which, has been game changing for me in training. And, it's cool to like apply it and show people in a barbell cert. Cause even back in the day, I think you might've even done this. Like, hey, warm up. How about a treadmill for 10 minutes? I used to do that shit,
Yeah.
How about and then go fucking lift some heavy weight, now, I warm up my clients like 15, 20 minutes, we're doing your open chain mobility. We're doing your specific warm-ups, and then you're doing like a little bit of cardio work, not getting the heart rate up, not taking anything away from the workout, but we're getting the juices flowing. We're not trying to like just hop in there and fucking try to deadlift over 500 pounds and then fuck yourself up,
Yeah.
So you got to prep the body. So with the cert, we tie all that stuff in together, and I think that's what makes it a little bit different, than the other certs that are out there. It's just a different interpretation of the barbell with the unconventional style, and then tying it up to what we do in the Onnit Academy as a whole.
That's so sick. So people can come here obviously for the cert, and if you're a lady, you can come here for the women's classes and sign up for the 8-week course.
Yes.
What of this has been made available online? Do you have any programs through Onnit Academy or anything like that?
That is the goal. That's what we're working on right now. That's one of the questions that I get asked the most on with my followers and people that email me and stuff like that. Like, oh, when's your program coming out? When are you doing this? And it's like, we're working on that. Hopefully, in the summer, end of the year, we can have some program out there.
Would that be something similar to like the Onnit 6?
Yeah.
Where you guys have like video
Onnit 6, but probably not as high production, because it'll be like my program. It's not going to be like.
I got you. It won't be an Onnit program.
Yeah, it'll be an Onnit program, but it won't be just like that.
All the bells and whistles.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get like, like, hey, look, this is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. We're going to knock it out. But like a big believer is, I don't like, if you're going to release a program, you got to have trial and error. You got to do it on yourself, training on yourself. And then, you got to train people for free, on doing this program, because they're testing shit out for you, and, like, hey man, you want to do this program with me? And, hey, it's free, but we're testing shit out. So don't get like frustrated with me, So it's, I'm a big believer in like, testing the stuff that you put out there before, not just, I can write up shit and then like, oh, I'll do this. And it's like, have you ever done that?
Yeah. It was perfect on paper.
Yeah. It's like, man, that shit was hard as hell. It was hard as hell. That didn't flow the way it do. So, I'm like clearing all that stuff up, kind of like testing all that stuff out right now. We call the gym the lab, because we test a lot of the programming out in there. And like, once that's set, we're going to, hopefully push it online by the end of the year and have stuff on there, because, I love coaching. And I think coaching to me is like a way that I connect through fitness, because that's what I do. So fitness, I'm able to connect with people. And like, I know some people might think it's just fitness, but man, I love it. And I love seeing people go from point A to point B. And, like I said, it's cool to see people's body transformations, but it's cool to see their mindset go from fucking like being here to being fucking like owning shit, and you see that every day in the gym from people that walk in from day 1 to like day 30, the way their like posture is. And it's not just from training. It's not like that we're working on just on posture, but it's their confidence levels. And I love fucking seeing that shit. I love seeing people just like,
that's the piece that extends into all areas of life, you know, like whatever. And that's just straight out of Wim Hof's book or any of these teachers that tell you to push yourself to the edge of whatever the experience is, whether that's breath work, cold therapy, or your workouts. All that shit matters. All that gets extrapolated out into everything you do. And I know I butchered this quote before and I'll butcher it again, but it's something like mastery in anything equals mastery in everything. Because once you learn how to be a master in something, that translates into everything you do, right? And it's not like, Michael Jordan wasn't the greatest basketball player of all time and then became the greatest golfer of all time. Obviously, there's limits to that, but he's fucking good at golf. You know what I'm saying? He's good at a lot of things that he did. He's great at business too. So thinking about those things, like, it really does make sense because so much of our experience here has to do with the mental in anything we do. So much of it has to do with the mental. Obviously, when you push yourself, and I've experienced this myself through fighting and things like that, when you push yourself, which you have, to a level and you're constantly exploring your own boundaries, that really does dip into how you train the mind. But I wanted to get into some mindset stuff. Like, what are the general principles that you have that are important in life? And what are the practices you have to slow the fuck down? Because Onnit's moving at an incredible pace. And obviously that can lead you to like a frantic mind where you're like, fuck, it'll never stop. It's go. How do you slow shit down and reconnect?
So the way my mindset, I've been here for a long time and I put in hours, but it's one of those things where people say work smarter, not harder. I put in hours where I'm here at 6 a.m., leave at 9 p.m. And at that point, I'm interacting with a lot of people, I'm with people a lot. So mindset's on point when I'm at work, but at the end of the day, sometimes I got to go and be by myself. I got to just like focus on me. And, that time is important, for my mindset. I got to go home, I got to relax, not talk to anyone. I'll watch TV, read a book, fucking foam roll, stretch, they do all that stuff just by myself because I'm around people all the time and I love it. But, for my mindset, for me to be like good the next day, I got to like put some back in the tank for myself, and I think that's what gets me like, back to like normal. It's like kind of that time where I just like go on a run by myself. I whether you believe it or not, I weigh 220 pounds and I'm like, I fucking love running. It's like, I'm not built to run. Like my feet my feet fucking hate it, but I love running. I love like the endorphin high. And that's like where I just like, that's where the mental stuff comes in. It's like that conditioning work, the runs, the biking, the rowing, the skiing, like all that stuff. It's where like, sometimes I'll have headphones, sometimes I don't, but I'm going through that stuff and that's where I challenge myself. It's like when you were fighting, I'm sure you're training, you're like, fuck, you're in your head. Like, I gotta fucking do this. I gotta do this. And that for me, running and conditioning works like that. When I'm running, I'm like, why the fuck am I running? This is fucking stupid. It's like, I don't need to run. I'm not built to run. Like, and then like, nah, keep running, pussy. Like, keep moving, dude. Just knock it out. Just knock out this run. And it's like, I have conversations with myself in conditioning work. And it's like, I like those conversations, because it's like, it lets me explore myself. And I think that's where I gravitate for fitness. It's like, I've had these conversations with myself. I'm sure the people that I'm training are having that stuff in their head too. Like, fuck Juan, hate that guy, this and that. So
why did I say yes to go into this class? Why am I here for 11 a.m. barbell?
So things like that. So it's like, I guess that's where like my mental like preparedness kind of like comes is like from like working on myself on like whether it be conditioning work, meditation, reading. My mental game comes from like my family. I love my family. I'm close with my mom. I'm close with my brother. I'm thankful that I have my grandparents, and, I just had, it was Easter just, was 2 days ago, hung out with my grandma, hung out with my aunts, I have a real close relationship with all of them. And I think that's what keeps me grounded, like, I don't come from a privileged family, my family, they're immigrants, from Mexico. They've came here, they've made it, they're making it. And, they're kind of progressing. And I think that pushes me to be better. It's like seeing them, kind of like, look, they came from nothing to, they're living life, and I think that to me is what motivates me. It's like, I want to, make them proud, like I do, I love all my family. Like I just,
So it makes so much sense because then they talk about like the beginnings of this country, and obviously there was a lot that was wrong with the beginnings of this country, but some of the stuff that was right is a lot of the immigrants that came here had to bust their ass because they started with nothing. And that got handed down generationally, right? And that's really almost to a fault where we are in our go mentality, but there's something to be said for hard work, right? And then you look on the flip side of that, some of the wealthy kids that grow up with everything, they don't want to do shit because they've had everything handed to them, you know? And I'm sure, I mean, I don't know what it was like at your high school, but I remember a kid rolling up in an F50 Ferrari, and I was like, good God, you know, and that dude's successful now. I ain't gonna shit on him, but I'm saying like there was, and he's a homie of mine. I'll just say that, but you know, like some kids had it better than others. And, you know, there's a lot of people out there that start off well and it doesn't translate to a better experience in life. You know what I'm saying? So that's really cool to see that. You know, I get that, you know, trained with Cain Velasquez and very similar story. Parents were immigrants. He grew up in Yuma. His dad was a strawberry picker in Yuma, and back in California, he'd go back and forth seasonally working on that stuff. And like, you look at a guy like Cain, like he's just all work ethic. He's all go, you know, he never stops. So for sure. You've been to the Amazon. I want to talk about this. I talked about DMT with your brother, but you know, DMT for people that haven't had it, I recommend watching DMT, The Spirit Molecule, or reading the book is even better by Rick Strassman, because that'll give you a good look at that. But it can be almost like indescribable because it's so fast and there's so much, and you try to come back and put it into words. And as Terrence McKenna said, there's not really language for that experience, right? It doesn't been developed yet. But in the Amazon, doing ayahuasca and wachuma and some of these other plant medicines, there you can describe that experience a little bit easier. So, I mean, talk a bit about your experiences and what you've gained when you've gone to the Amazon, because I always find this fascinating with people. Yeah.
So, I mean, my story is a little bit different, you know, going to the Amazon. You know, I enjoyed it. It was cool. You know, I was lucky to go out there with a group of friends, you know, with Aubrey and, you know, the crew going down there, you know, to Peru.
You went to Spirit Quest?
Yeah.
With Don Howard?
Yeah, we went down Howard Spirit Quest. So I went down there and it was an amazing experience. But, you know, heading down there when everyone was setting up the trip, it was like, hey, we're going to go to the Amazon. I was like, fuck. You know, I was like, don't get me wrong. I come from like, you know, like I'm not like privileged or anything like that, but I'm going to the jungle. I was like, I'm at the shit in the fucking like hole in the ground. So that was my mind. I was like, this is what we're doing. So we show up. Spirit Quest is nice. I was like, man, this is a dope spot. I was like, all right. So we get there and I'm like, all right, this is definitely, you know, was not what I was expecting. So yeah, let's roll with it. So we go in there. You know, we're obviously fasting, and then we're eating the food that has like no seasoning on it, which was fucking brutal for me because I love food. No salt. I love food, you know. So it's like it was brutal, but you know, I know that, you know, it helped out, you know, helped in the process. So that happened. You know, we went, you know, we made the ayahuasca, and then like, you know, I do tell the story. I'll be completely blunt the way I tell it. You know, we're doing, you know, like I'm super open to everything, you know. But I also have like my thoughts in my head, you know, so we're doing our, you know, like our little chants or like, you know, our songs to like kind of like find our spirit animal and things like that. And we're going, everyone's kind of like, you know, meditating and thing. I open my eyes and, man, fuck, what the fuck am I doing? I'm from the hood. I'm like out here in the jungle, fucking meditating, and like I'm looking for a spirit animal. And these were my thoughts, you know, like I'm like a part of me was kind of still closed-minded about it. And I was like, this is silly, this and that. And then I see like my spirit animal, like it's what I envisioned in my head. I'm like, all right, well, I saw something, and it was a peacock, but then it wasn't just one, it was a peacock and a bear. So it was two. So I asked Don Howard, you know, shaman, and I asked him like, hey, Don Howard, I saw, you know, like when he was asking, I was like, I saw a peacock and a bear. I was like, what does that mean? And he was like, oh, you'll know, and you know, he's a super nice guy. Fucking awesome.
I love him because he's not a dude that's gonna explain shit for you.
Well, you know. So that was the thing. So then me in my head, my like, you know, like the way I was like, man, he don't know what he's talking about. I was like, hey, I probably caught him off guard with the peacock and the bear. You know? So he's probably like,
he's never heard that one before.
Yeah, he's like, this guy's strange. He has a peacock and a bear. So but that was just me being like silly and like kind of like thinking that. So then we go into the ayahuasca ceremony. And we're doing, you know, drink the ayahuasca. And, you know, I didn't do ayahuasca. I did pharmahuasca with my brother with no shaman, just me and him, which that's another story on its own, which is crazy. But, you know, we did the ayahuasca, and it's, you know, it's the whole group. It's a lot of people in there. And then I start, you know, I'm puking. I'm like,
La Purga.
Yeah. hey, it's coming out. I'm like, I think Vailana, which is one of our friends, was like, man, I thought you were dying back there or something. Cause I was like, ooh. And it got to the point where it was just like, I could not handle it. I was like, I have nothing else to throw up. I'm like, I'm done. And I was like, this is horrible. I was like, what did I get myself into? And then I started seeing visions, but like my visions were not I'm not battling any demons, or anything like that I'm aware of. I was battling something, but it wasn't like, it didn't come into effect there. And it was just like, for me, it was just like a party. It was like just a party. But I was still puking. So before they got to the party, I was puking my brains out, and I was like, man, I need this to stop. And then, so my spirit animals, when I did it, and this is what I played in my head, what I saw. Like when I was like, the bear told me, like when he's like, hey, when you feel in trouble, just holler at me. And I was like, what's that? And the bear had like a, kind of like a twang, kind of like how I talk, He's like, yeah, just holler at me. Like, I was like, all right. He's like, just say, hey, homie, give me some honey. He said, just holler that, and then he'll pop up. And this is my interpretation in my head. So I'm like, give me some honey. Like in my head, I'm saying this. And then the bear and the peacock pop up in my vision. Like they just pop up. Like, hey, man. I'm like, what's up? They're like, dance it out. I'm like, dance it out. And I love dancing. Don't get me wrong. So, I mean, I kid you not. It's a dark room. I stand up. I start dancing. I'm just moving. I can't see shit. I'm like, in another world. I'm dancing. I start feeling better. I'm like, oh man, bear and peacock were right. So I start getting after it. And then it just turned into a party. But for me, the experience was like a Benny Benassi video, the old school DJ, with women dancing, different colors, bah, 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 bah. And it was just like, holy shit, this is fun. It was like an experience. So to me, it wasn't like, I didn't feel like it challenged me when I was like battling through the purging and all that. But I just knew like the message that I got from there. Sometimes you got to call on people to help you out.
Yeah.
And my spirit animal was the bear and the peacock, and I had to call them for help. And then that kind of translates like to life now. Like I didn't take this message right at the time because I didn't know, but I see that now. It's like, oh, if I need help, I can't do everything. I don't have all the answers. Fuck, I try to surround myself by smarter people than me that know how to do things way better than me. And sometimes you got to ask for help and never be afraid to ask for help. And I think that's the message from what I got from ayahuasca. And it was an awesome experience. But I think I was the first one done. Like I fell asleep. I was like, and then I was
Snoring.
next to our friend CT was next to me. And apparently, I guess I was snoring. I didn't know I snored. I was snoring. That CT, like, he's in his trip. He bumps me, like, wake up, stop snoring. Like, oh, all right, cool. So that was, the ayahuasca experience was awesome, And like I said, at the time, I didn't really know what the message was. But like I said, like that, kind of like asking for help. Don't ever be afraid to ask for help because, like I said, you can't do everything on your own. Fuck.
Yeah. And so much of that, like how people think of La Purga as only puking, but it can be crying, it can be laughter, it can be shitting your brains out, which has been many of my experiences. It can also be dance and movement and yoga, right? Because like we have energy that gets built up inside us, and you could look at this from a quantum physics standpoint, auras, that kind of shit, chakras, or you can look at this as just like actual physical energy. But as that stuff gets pent up, these emotions are stored, it has to be physically expressed. Right. It's not enough to just change your mind about something and say, oh, okay, I'm healed now. Like, no, you got to fucking get it out of you. Yeah. And so it makes perfect sense that was the medicine for you, was just to dance and move it, And I've been in plenty of ceremonies where I've seen that, like fucking our boy Aaron Alexander. He had the most ridiculous ecstatic dance I've ever seen. It was like complete with Wim Hof breathing and sweat. The smell of his body permeated the whole room we were in. Like he was getting it. Yeah. But like that physical expression. And that's something, I mean, again, like, and I always say this when I talk about plant medicines or drugs, if you want to be blunt, is that a lot of these lessons can be taken. That's why I talk about them. A lot of these lessons can be taken without the medicine. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're feeling kind of funky and you fucking force yourself to dance, you're going to feel better after. You know what I'm saying? And and it was cool too, because you were in a dark room, you don't have to worry about people looking at you. It's kind of like when Parangi does the ecstatic dance and he blindfolds you. Like that's when you're going to dance free, because no one's watching. Like it's not dance like no one's watching. Like, I'll dance because no one's watching and really get after it. You know, that's really cool. And then you guys went into Wachuma after, is that right?
Yeah. The Wachuma was awesome. It was like, I mean, I've done, Molly and stuff like that. So like, it kind of like reminded me of that feeling, and it was amazing. Like, I mean, like that experience, like I mean, obviously being surrounded by awesome people kind of helps that experience.
For sure.
So, kind of being in the jungle, walking through the village and things like that, just kind of seeing life on a different, like a different scope, like these people that are living in the jungle, like seeing that and, appreciating the way they live life and they're like making it happen, to me and make like, hey man, I'm fucking grateful for what I got. I'm grateful for the people that I'm surrounded with. And what Chuma kind of just like opened up my eyes to that. I was just like, oh, just like really observing things. And I think the lesson that I got from that was that now I'm grateful for everyone, but I try to, one of the things I love doing is people watching. And I'm always like, when I get super high, I'm like, man, why is what, like whether it be a homeless person, like what got this person to this position, or, someone that's very successful, what got them to this position? I'd like formulate things, and then I love making friends. So then, I mean, I'll talk to a homeless man. I'll talk to a successful person. Like, hey, just make conversation to see little bits of their, their story. And it's, you learn a lot, and I think older people, seniors are like, those are the most fun to talk to, in my opinion, because you talk to them and their stories are fucking amazing. And I think that's what I learned is just like, it just opened me up to like being open to everyone, I don't hold grudges on anyone. I fucking like, I don't hate anyone. I don't like having people hate me, if I fought someone back in the day that I, either I beat him up or he beat me up, whatever. If I see him down the day, we shake hands. Hey man, what's up, dude? It opened my eyes to that. It's like, dude, treat everyone the way you would treat your family members, and I think that's the message that I got from that, just from what Chuma, just seeing everyone, like all my good friends, and then seeing all these people that were just walking around like, hey, we're all the same. And it's just like, to me, it's like, I try to live my life like that. Like, I just try to treat everyone equally, and I try to protect those that aren't treated equally. And, that's the message that got me, from that.
That's dope, brother. Yeah. Henry Rollins, I remember him on Rogan talking about how important it is to travel. And when you experience these third world countries and different cultures, and you can see like they have so much less by our understanding, material wise, and so much more in a lot of ways. They have community, they have a sense of purpose, and they find happiness with less, with a meager existence, like a fucking dirt floor. Like there's 4 walls and a roof, but there's no fucking carpet. There might be a rug, but it's mostly living on dirt, like in that. Still to like, obviously we can survive in a lot of ways. We've been doing that for a long ass time. It's only very recently do we have air conditioning and refrigerators and all this modern science. But rewinding that, you can still see there's a fuck ton of people on this planet that live like that. There's probably more people on this planet that live that way than live the way we do, for sure. Think of India and China, where there's billions of people. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are living meager existences and are still drawing happiness and finding purpose and meaning out of life. And that's a really cool thing to have that direct impact, especially on the medicine. Because it's so visceral when you're on the medicine and you see that and you're like, oh, okay. It's a huge perspective shift that's very palpable.
Yeah. And like I said, to me, it was like, at the time I didn't realize it, but like months out, it was like, oh, this is what I learned from it. It was like, it wasn't right then and there. I like noticed something, but then, later in time, I was like thinking, and I would think about my experience and like, oh, that's the message that I got from that, and that's the message I got from that. But the most, one of the bigger ones was the closing ceremony, was like getting the, remind me of the name where the
Vilka?
Yeah. Oh man. that was brutal, man. Yeah, that was brutal. So that was, my best friend that I grew up with, from like the age of like 17, 18 to like right about close to 30, my buddy Hugo, he passed away, and he was like a brother to me. He was always with me and my brother, with Aubrey, Sean, all of us. He was like one of us, and he was like one of my best friends. And he got stabbed at a party, and it was just, man, he got stabbed in the leg and it just hit the wrong place, and it just like, he passed away. So to me, it was like, I was battling for that forever. Cause like, he was the guy that like, we'd go out together all the time. We'd travel together all the time. He was my best friends. He was like another brother to me. And I was battling with that because I was like, man, like I fucking miss that guy. Like he was my homie. Like he was my brother. And to have someone so close to you pass away and you saw him on his last day. I had dinner with him, you know, and he was like, hey man, I'm going out. And then I was like, well, I'm going to go home today. You know, I'm going to go home tonight. And he went out, and that was his last day. And to me, it was like, I kept playing that in my head. Like, man, what if I would have gone out? That probably wouldn't happen. I would have like backed them up. I would have done this, you know, but for whatever stuff happens, it happens. But, you know, for a long time, I was battling that in my head. I was just like, man, like it's fucking eating me alive. You know, it sucks. And then eventually, you know, through that ceremony, it was brutal, man. Like it was intense, you know, like I felt like I was legitly dying. Like my body just like tightened up. And I saw my buddy in that ceremony, you know, like I saw him as an energy, you know, he wasn't like a human being. He was an energy. And he just like say, whether this is in my head or is, you know, it's the real deal. He came and talked to me, and like, you know, we would always talk about, man, we need to do this. Hey, we need to do that. And like his message, hey, what's up, brother? You know, like it was like energy, but I was still able to give him dabs and stuff like that. It was kind of weird, you know, but you know, I was able to talk to him, and he was just like, hey man, like keep doing what you're doing. Like, don't slow down, man. I'm good. I'm all good, man. I got your back all the time still. So just keep doing what you're doing. And this is what I played in my head. But you know, from that point on, I was like, hey man, he's good. And that kind of gave me that clearance, because that was the one thing that I was like, kind of like, it was bugging me a little bit, you know, like it was bothering me a lot. And it was just like having that like off my shoulders was great. And it was like, I felt like he was the person that said it through the medicine. It was like, hey, you know, like all good, brother. Like keep moving, keep doing your thing, you know, like don't back down, keep being who you are. And it's just like, that was like, to me, that was the most, you know, I don't know if the groundbreaking is the right word, but it was like where I got like past something where I was like, damn, like that line was right there. And that pushed me over, and fucking life is good, you know?
Yeah, brother.
So,
yeah, Vilka's a special one. It's, you know, I think there's a 2-episode Peru breakdown that Aubrey, me, and Caitlin did on Aubrey Marcus podcast. And it's cool. We talk about our Vilka experience, but like for me, that was my only time with Vilka. It's, for those that don't know, 5-MeO DMT, NN-DMT, and bufotenine. And it's 2 different plants that are combined, so they have about equal parts of everything. And it's like a 90-minute DMT trip with purging, you know, like I pissed the bed, I fucking puked my brains out. Like it was like nothing else. But in that experience, I felt my ancestors, and like my first coach, Maestro Witsi, who was a cutman in the UFC, I felt them right there with me. I could see them, you know, like, so like, it's really cool to think, you know, and for those that haven't seen it, watch DMT, The Spirit Molecule, read the book. There's a lot that goes into this. And when we start scientifically backing the spiritual world, you know, it really starts to make a little bit more sense, you know? And I think there's a really dope book called The Physics of God. We'll link to it in the show notes. Dr. Dan Engel turned me on to it. It's awesome. It's all the way that science is catching up to the spiritual world, but that shit makes sense to me. You know, if this is infinite and we are to last forever, that, you know, whoever dies, it is just a transition past that, and everything is conscious. And I think there's so many lessons we get from the plants that let us know that it's not just man is here and everything else is inanimate, you know, like, no, everything's animated. Everything has the same consciousness we do. So that's dope, man. Well, fuck, dude, what do you got? You got anything to promote? Anything that's coming out?
Well, we have, you know, the Barbell Circuit coming May 11th and 12th here in Austin, Texas. It's going to be our unconventional Barbell Circuit. Like I said, if you're interested in learning how we tie things together and kind of a different approach into the barbell, come check us out. It's going to be a fun time. Dope community here in ATX, and especially here at Onnit. Dope community from everyone that surrounds us to everyone that comes to the search. So yeah, join in. And then we'll have the women's program in September.
Sick, brother. Yeah. And where can people find you online?
I'm just, you know, my Instagram handle is just, what's my Juanit, JUANNIT_24/7. You know, you follow me on there. I post a lot of workouts and stuff like that. If you follow me on my stories, it's going to be more food than anything. Tacos. Kind of go hard on the tacos. So
food trucks and ATX.
Yeah, if you're trying
to
eat healthy, you probably shouldn't check my stories, because, you know, I get a lot of messages like, damn, bro, your fucking, your food stores are probably more better than your workout stores. So I started laughing. I was like, you know, they rival them. So yeah, man, you know, you want to give me a follow, go for it. If not, hey, it's all good.
Awesome. Well, where's your favorite? I know you do the tacos a lot. What's your favorite taco joint in ATX?
My favorite taco spot, man, I like Rositas Al Pastor on East Riverside.
I'll check it
out. They
out.
have this campechana taco that goes fucking hard.
Okay. I'm in, brother. Dope, man. It's been excellent having you. Thanks a lot, Juan.
Thank you for having me, bro.
Fuck yeah.